Good morning and welcome. I call this third meeting of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Postsecondary Education to order. Amy, please call the roll.
Representative Bowling.
Here.
Representative Graham. Representative Palumbo. Representative Timoney. Representative Tipton.
Here.
Chair McCool.
Here. Thank you. We'll hold on the minute approval for right now, but if we could have the University of Louisville go ahead and come forward. I'll swear you in and have you introduce yourself. Is that okay? If you don't mind, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed, introduce yourself, and proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman McCool and members of the committee. I am very grateful for being here today to update you on and seek your continued support for the University of Louisville and higher education in general. My name is Kim SCHATZEL, and I have been the president of U of L for about 3 weeks now. With me are Provost Lori Stewart-Gonzalez, Executive Vice President for Research and Innovation Kevin Gardner, and Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Dan Durbin. Since I've not had the chance to meet many of you that are on the committee, I would appreciate just the opportunity to be able to take a moment and introduce myself. I previously served since 2016 as president of Towson University in suburban Baltimore, the second largest institution of higher education in the Maryland system. It's a university that in many ways is similar to U of L. It is a university that serves many first-generation and Pell-eligible students, and it has great partnerships with local community agencies and businesses, and is an economic engine for the state. Prior to my career in higher education, I spent 20 years in corporate business, founding a multinational advanced manufacturing company that served the automotive industry and was the largest producer of powdered metal in the United States and second largest in the world. I actually spent a lot of time in Kentucky as well as in the Louisville area because we were a major supplier to Ford Motor Company. Those relationships and the possibilities that they present to the university are among the reasons that I am so excited to be a part of this great university as well as Kentucky. So I do understand the mission as well as the impact of the University of Louisville on the Commonwealth, and I look forward to working with all of you to build on the many strengths that U of L brings to the table for the benefit of not only Louisville, but for all of Kentucky. If I may, I'd like to share just some information about the University of Louisville. U of L is one of 2 Research One universities in Kentucky, and we are only one of only 79 universities in the nation to be designated as a community-engaged institution by the Carnegie Foundation. We boast more than 160,000 alumni from around the world, including more than 98,000 in Kentucky alone. And when combined with U of L Health, we are the second largest employer in the state with more than 19,000 employees. As far as our academic mission, we are the premier university in Kentucky's largest city and the second largest university in the Commonwealth with 23,000 students. And we serve students from 119 counties. About 39% of our students are Pell eligible and 32% are first-generation students. Remarkably high numbers for a Research One institution and a mission that we are quite proud of. We are proud of our students graduate with the second lowest debt among Kentucky universities. Only Morehead State students graduate with less debt. Again, evidence of our efforts to be able to address accessibility and affordability for the citizens of Kentucky. Our Commonwealth mandated mission is to be a premier metropolitan research university, and we take that mandate very seriously every single day. We are an economic engine for the Commonwealth, and with an economic impact of $8.6 billion, let me say that again, billion, that is initially driven from the legislature's $145 million investment in the university. And as someone that has spent over 20 years in business, I can tell you that is a heck of an ROI to be able to be realized. We had more than 1,400 official partnerships last year. In addition to community partners, we're working with major employers like Humana, Ford, UAW, and UPS to both share our expertise and educate their workforce while our students gain valuable experience through co-ops as well as internships. In healthcare, U of L Health has about 1.5 million patient encounters each year. And it's not just in Louisville, but from one end of the Commonwealth to the other. We touch millions of lives annually and help make sick Kentuckians well once again to be with their families and with their community. Our enterprise continues to grow. We recorded more than $200 million in research expenditures in the past 2 years. Our manufacturing extension partnership, again, a soft spot for me because of my background in manufacturing, funded through the U.S. Department of Commerce, will have an economic impact of $150 to $200 million for each of the next 10 years. Each of the next 10 years. We are also a leader in the field of cybersecurity with more than $15 million in grants from the NSA and other federal agencies. In fact, through our Center for Digital Transformation, we have trained more than 500 people in various levels, including faculty from other colleges and universities in this most important area of cybersecurity. We are under a Commonwealth mandate. I'm going to lean over here for
Yeah.
Oh. Keep going. Keep going. There we are. We are under a Commonwealth mandate to be a premier metropolitan research university. We are committed to that mission, and we use that as a basis for everything that we do. To us, this means that we teach, serve, and conduct research at an extremely high level and in fields that will improve the quality of life for our students and the citizens of Kentucky. Last year, you showed great confidence in the university, and for that, I am very grateful. I want to make sure that I thank you for the support that you've given, as well as for the confidence that you've shown in us. Well, I want to be able to say that appropriating that significant funding in several key areas, including asset preservation, bucks for brains, performance funding, a new classroom and research building for our Speed School of Engineering, and an appropriation for our Military Connected Student Center. And I'm proud to tell you that we have been a very good student of the resources that you've entrusted us with. Our 3 campuses include more than 130 buildings with an average age of 55 years and deferred maintenance needs approaching $1 billion. The asset preservation funds appropriated last year have enabled us to fund and in many cases complete more than 120 critical projects across our 3 campuses. We've prioritized projects that protect our students and enhance their learning experience. These projects include significant HVAC upgrades and replacement, electrical switches, as well as systems, and promoting campus safety. We're replacing or repairing roofs, replacing windows, and improving lighting in our parking lots. Again, all to improve campus safety and enhance the learning experience. We also live within our means. This is a very important slide in the fact that it shows both our short and long-term debt. For example, we do not overburden ourselves with debt. Our long-term debt of $298 million is very conservative in that it is strategic and fixed at a very competitive and affordable rate. Furthermore, both our debt capacity and debt burden, as indicated, are well below our sector averages, and we are rated as investment grade and stable by rating agencies. Additionally, about 40% of our debt will be retired within the next 5 years. So the fiscal responsibility, as well as the fiscal stewardship of the university, is very strong. Since the General Assembly passed House Bill 1 in 1997, Bucks for Brains impact has benefited the Commonwealth in many ways. Last year, Bucks for Brains funded 98 endowed chairs and 127 grad students. Through their research, those faculty are creating startup companies, employing hundreds of people in well-paying jobs in Louisville and throughout the Commonwealth. About half of our $200 million in research expenditures and funding last year was secured by Bucks for Brains faculty. So the return, again, is extraordinary. As you can see, U of L is investing. Why don't you back up? Right. As you can see, U of L is investing in STEM areas, which will have a significant impact on the Commonwealth's economy, data safety, energy storage, and the health of our citizens. The photo on this slide is of a young boy undergoing locomotor training, relearning how to walk after paralysis. It's Bucks for Brains that brought these researchers together who pioneered this process at U of L. And our program is now one of the nation's leading spinal cord injury programs. The leaders of this training have been recruited by many of the nation's finest universities, but because of Bucks for Brains and the funding it provides, they are staying in Louisville and staying at U of L. And Kentucky residents, well, they're enjoying and they are being impacted by their work every single day. So while Bucks for Brains has been great for the Kentucky economy, it is also leading to discoveries that will save or improve lives, not just in the Commonwealth, but across our nation. Last year, U of L received $4.5 million increase in performance funding. We invested that funding in a number of ways, including providing student aid and direct academic support to our colleges. In addition, we used some of this funding to create a new Center for Engaged Learning, which will ensure our students receive real-world experiences as part of their education before they earn their degrees. The goal is to have the students be career-ready. We are working with many companies, particularly in the Louisville area, to build this programming directly into the curriculum. As businesses such as Ford and SK continue to expand and locate in Kentucky, well, I can tell you from talking to them, one of the words that they constantly say to us are engineers, engineers, and engineers. We need more engineers. And we need many more students to enter into this rewarding and high-paying field. The funding that we received for the construction of the new Speed School of Engineering building, well, I have to tell you, it is critical to be able to allow us to address this growing workforce need within Kentucky. And it will help us educate more students and conduct more research in this high-priority area. Since receiving this appropriation, we've identified the site and the specific academic areas that will most benefit from this amazing and much-needed new facility. The project is on schedule for completion by fall 2025, and we are in the design phase for the project. And this is a rendering that we wanted to be able to show to you. Last year, you appropriated $600,000 for our efforts to support our military, veterans, and their families. And as you can see from this slide, we are proud to serve military-connected students. According to some most recently available data from the Department of Defense Tuition Assistance Site tool, U of L has more military students using the Department of Defense tuition assistance than the other 14 ACC schools combined. That's the level of impact that this program provides. This is largely due to our competitive reduced military rate for undergraduate as well as most graduate programs. And thanks to you, we look forward to opening our Center for Military-Connected Students this fall. So very important, which will provide wraparound services in one location for our military-connected students and their families. With your commitment, we will be able to attract, retain, support, and graduate even more of our heroes in the future. With your financial support, we also continue to ensure we provide important services across the Commonwealth. The Rural Health Program funded our area health education centers, which help recruit and retain medical professionals and practitioners in rural Kentucky, as well as programs and medical residents in the western half of the Commonwealth. As the number of people with autism continues to grow in terms of diagnosis, our Kentucky Autism Training Center provides key educational and support in every corner of Kentucky. Of particular note, we work with public schools as well as first responders who are often faced with unique challenges posed when working with autistic individuals. So thank you for support in the past and for the opportunity to share our successes. Again, we strive to be able to support not only Louisville, but the entire Commonwealth, and we feel and will continue to remain committed to being the best of stewards of the funding that you appropriate to us last year as well as going forward. Now, I'm going to talk about moving forward. First, we are asking for continued funding for asset preservation. As I mentioned earlier, we have about $1 billion in maintenance needs. Last year's funding allowed us to make significant strides in very urgent areas of repair, but we still have many high priority areas to address. Among other priorities, your funding will help us continue to upgrade our central heating and cooling, improve air quality and efficiency in many of our buildings. And we are continuing to ask for Bucks for Brains funding, an absolutely tremendous program. As we have done in the past, we will continue to invest this support and seek matching funds from donors. It provides for tremendous leverage to be able to do that, to build strength in STEM-related research areas. This additional Bucks for Brains funding will allow us to attract and retain the best and brightest minds from across the country and keep them in Kentucky once we get them here. While this technically is not a request for new funding, we are asking for your support for locating the Kentucky Cybersecurity Center at the University of Louisville. We already mentioned the work we're doing with the NSA and the training that we provide for students, professionals in our community, and for institutions throughout the country. Locating the Cybersecurity Center at U of L will increase access to that training and further leverage the partnerships and unique assets that we have on the campus. A Louisville location also is ideal, well, very simply because of the proximity to the Commonwealth headquarters that is located in Louisville for the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Secret Service. We already work with these agencies in the area of cybersecurity. So locating this center in Louisville will allow us to better work with them to protect the citizens of the Commonwealth. We're asking for new funding for a Health Sciences Center classroom building. The medical professionals of tomorrow will need newer, up-to-date facilities, and we need more classrooms and labs to accommodate these growing fields and this increasing shortage of nursing and medical professionals that we're feeling within the Commonwealth as well as nationally, a critical resource in terms of our workforce development again. In addition, this new health center building will include a simulation center, which will provide state-of-the-art training for students through our health sciences disciplines, but it will also be an asset to our other healthcare organizations within Louisville as well as the Commonwealth, because we will offer training opportunities to other health professionals in around the Commonwealth itself, as well as the city. And finally, we are asking for $4 million per year for 2 years to demonstrate to the NIH the Commonwealth's commitment to establish a clinical and translational research network. This network will extend across the Commonwealth and build the infrastructure and support for clinical trials in rural and urban healthcare settings, bringing the latest treatments to patients and make them available throughout Kentucky. In closing, I want to thank you again for allowing me to be here today for the first time after about 3 weeks on campus. I've truly enjoyed it and look forward to building those relationships even further. I hope that you agree that our needs are clear and your support is so vital to the success of the university and the impact that we are so committed to on having this positive impact on the Commonwealth itself. I look forward to working with you to advance the U of L for the benefit of our students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends, and for the entire Commonwealth of Kentucky. Again, I'll stop here. Thank you again for all your support. I'm available to answer any questions, as my colleagues are as well.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate, again, I want to say welcome to Kentucky and certainly into Louisville. Glad to have you and look forward to working with you many days to come. I do want to just follow up on a couple of things. A very impressive presentation. Thank you for your time and sharing what you have done. I want to go back to the asset preservation with, you said you've done 120 projects. You know, with the inflation cost, has there been some movement or some adjustments that you've had to do that due to that cost that we need to postpone or that we need to look at for next year? And is that included in your and that's part of your presentation for next year? Is that correct? We want to talk about that a little bit.
So that's a terrific question and very astute because of the inflation that we're all facing and available nationally. I would ask if I could to have my CFO, Dan Durbin, to be able to respond to that because he'll be able to have more detail associated with it.
Thank you. Yes, you're exactly correct in that inflation is taking a bit of a hit on those projects. We're experiencing the growth between for about the last 12 months, about 20% growth between then and now in terms of the project estimates compared to what things are coming in at. We originally started with about 130 projects, and as we kind of reprioritize health and safety, HVAC, and infrastructure, we move things down kind of below the line, if you will, as we start to reprice some projects. But yeah, it's between it's probably a little over 20%.
And thank you. Not anything that we've done, it's just what's happened, and just using the best you can what you've got in it.
Supply chain issues.
Yes.
Supply chain and labor, yes, sir.
Thank you. I got Representative Tipton wants to ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam President. Good to have you here with us in Kentucky, and look forward to working with you for many years to come. I know that a few years ago, University of Louisville came to us with a healthcare initiative, Jewish Hospital. I know there's a big expansion. Could you share a little bit about, and we understand the importance of healthcare, especially after COVID. Could you share a little bit about your vision and the university's vision about where the university is going in regard to healthcare, and in particular to the immediate areas around the city of Louisville?
That's a great question. I'll speak to it a bit, but I'll also ask Provost Gonzalez to be able to add some thoughts because of the fact that being in her position for the last year, she's got great insight to be able to add. So, Provost, if you'd like to come up. I can tell you that over the past 3 weeks, I've probably spent a vast amount of time. I would say probably 30% of my time either at the health center campus downtown, as well as I attended my first U of L health board meeting yesterday. And finance committee meeting. I just see this as a tremendous partnership that's been established and a necessary partnership to provide for the fact that we are addressing the needs of the city itself as well as the citizens that are there, to have that marriage of those assets with the universities. So you have the research enterprise, the clinical, as well as the educational enterprise, is really the model that would make sense going forward to be able to assure the fact that we can be able to address not only the needs for today, but the needs going forward. There's tremendous synergies between the organizations to be able to work with, as well as with the Metro Council and the Mayor's office. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations, and I firmly believe that the establishment of that relationship and that partnership was very forward-thinking. Necessary, as you mentioned, from COVID, but even beyond, will have great impact in terms of the future and the successful and bright future of the city itself. But I'll ask the provost to add as well.
So I think one of the important parts of this whole enterprise was that we could help, U of L Health could help serve the region. So we've got the hospital in Bullitt County that will open soon. We're looking at what we can do in Shelbyville, but sometimes we're looking not at putting a hospital there, but in some of the smaller hospitals, can we take care of their IT for them or take care of certain services? So it's not necessarily the U of L brand on the hospital, but that we're using our assets to provide care so people can have care as close to home as possible. They've built several urgent care centers around the city, and they continue to try to expand the faculty base so that people have the services that they need. Primary care is one of the areas that they want to focus on as we get people in. And so when you talk about the surrounding areas, I know in your hometown we have been talking about what we're going to do there, and I think that's the that's the beauty of the partnership, that it's not the U of L brand everywhere, but it's bringing expertise together to keep our citizens healthy.
Thank you very much. I want to bounce back to another topic on the Bucks for Brains. Evidently, that's a very proactive and resourceful effort that you're doing. But with what specific area do you see more growth than the others? Do you see any more growth in one area in that than you do the other?
Well, again, the medical school campus and the health sciences center campus itself has had tremendous work in that area. I also see the opportunity within the speed school, both with regard to, the Blue Oval SK battery park that's being developed. The goal is to be able to have the fact that this is tremendous battery technology as well as renewables, as well as recycling. Having the speed school in terms of the engineering capacity there to be able to do that. We're also looking at the fact that we have unique resources in terms of biocontainment and research in terms of viruses and bacteria, in terms of infectious disease. And also I'll bring up drones is another opportunity area that we have. The amount of funding that we have for DoD with regard to drones is tremendous and only growing. So I think those are, a real fine core that will extend in terms of health and medical research. But I'm also looking at the fact that we can extend it even further in terms of those technologies that I've just mentioned.
Thank you. I have one more question, and I think I'll let you rest unless somebody else has another question. With the cybersecurity, are you partnered with other public post-secondary institutions to work together on an end result?
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit to it, but I'll also ask the provost to join me again on this because she was involved in it. Or Kevin, would you like to do that? I introduced Dr. Gardner to be able to do it. One of the things that I just want to start with is the fact that with the cybersecurity, I think we've talked about the absolute need in terms of the growth of the demand for training in that area. It's going to be an area that the demand is going to outstrip the supply for decades to be able to come. The Cybersecurity Center is different from the fact that it's outward facing in terms of training and interaction and partnerships with business as well as nonprofits as well as municipal agencies. So that's really the focus, is to be able to train versus academic programs. But we're looking to the fact of partnering with other universities around the state as those partnerships grow. But I'll ask Dr. Gardner to be able to add some more.
Thank you. I'll just make a couple quick points. So one is that there is a need for hardened infrastructure, secure infrastructure, and a place to bring together the FBI, the Secret Service, academic experts, companies across the board, companies, healthcare, financial, manufacturing. So there is a need for physical space and secure facilities, but there's a tremendous workforce need across the country and across the Commonwealth. And so it's really kind of those two things. So having a central location where we can have secure facilities like that is really important. But then we need to raise all boats. There's 4,600 jobs right now that are unfilled in the state of Kentucky. We've talked from Murray State to EKU and the community college system and everywhere in between there, and had dialogues about what they need. How can a Commonwealth Kentucky Cybersecurity Center help you do your job better and help everybody's academic programs to the extent that they need that? And then I think one of the real unmet needs is professional development, kind of credentials that are given by industry so that people can be upskilled. So you might have a computer scientist who can be upskilled, or even a high school graduate who's taking computer science in high school. They can get certifications through the University of Louisville now, but they should be able to get those through all the academic institutions across the state. And that the vision is that we would work together collaboratively, and we have had really productive discussions across the state at all the state institutions.
And just to add, we were talking about supply chains. You'll see that in manufacturing supply chains and other supply chains, retail supply chains, that there's smaller companies that are involved, that they're being asked to have cybersecurity expertise within their firms to qualify to be a vendor into these supply chains. So it eliminates many businesses within the Commonwealth to even participate in terms of bidding because of the fact that these industry-facing programs are not available to them, and the Cyber Center would address those.
Thank you. I certainly see this as a growing demand and look forward to seeing what we can do to help shore that up. Well, thank you for your presentation. Thank you very much for your time. And again, welcome to Kentucky and the University of Louisville. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if we could have University of Kentucky come on up. Welcome. I'm going to welcome you. I'm going to swear you in and then turn it over to you, okay? Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chairman
Introduce yourself.
McCool. Appreciate you having us here today. I will apologize for President Capilouto not being able to join us. He sends his best regards to you and this committee. Just want to thank you and this General Assembly for everything you provided in the 2022 session of the General Assembly. Historic levels of funding for higher education, and we do appreciate that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Angie Martin and Kevin Locke and let them talk about the two specific things you asked us to address, which was generally an overview of the University of Kentucky and then specifically where we were on capital projects. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I'm Angie Martin. I'm the Chief Budget Officer at the University of Kentucky, and it is good to talk to you today. I'm going to provide a very brief overview, and then Kevin is going to speak specifically about capital projects. So about the University of Kentucky, we are one of 8 universities in the country that have colleges of agriculture, engineering, medicine, and pharmacy on a single campus. We are also different than most universities in how we are formally organized, in that we are all inclusive. The institution does not have, for example, a separate foundation for fundraising or philanthropy. It is really part of the institution. UK Healthcare is not a separate entity. It is, again, just part of the institution. So with our total budget of approaching over $6 billion now, UK Healthcare is a huge component of that. And with the hospital system and with the clinical enterprise, it accounts for over 60% of our operating budget. With regard to academics, we do have 16 degree granting colleges with more than 200 academic programs. And we are very focused on student success. In the last 10 years, our 6-year graduation rate is up almost 10 percentage points to 69%. And I know a lot of people get shocked at, well, what do you mean you're measuring a bachelor's degree on 6 years? What about 4 years? And we have really been focused on our 4-year graduation rate as well. Back with the class that entered in fall 2010, by 4 years, 38.5% has graduated. That now has increased to over 55% of our students graduate within 4 years. With regard to research, we are an R1 research doctoral institution, and we have selected some key priority areas for our focus on research. And we selected those areas based upon local relevance. What is important to Kentucky? What is our existing overall area of strength? And are there growth opportunities available for the research? So with that, our research priorities include things like cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes and obesity, energy, neuroscience, and substance use disorder. Just a brief highlight of UK Healthcare. It is the AB Chandler Hospital is a level 1 trauma center. We have about 1,500 licensed beds. That includes the newest merger with King's Daughter Hospital in Ashland. Throughout the year, we average about 37,000 discharges of inpatient care per year, and we have almost 2 million outpatient encounters per year as well for UK healthcare. With regard to outreach, we have to mention our UK Cooperative Extension Service. We have offices in all 120 counties. And during fiscal year 21-22, the Cooperative Extension Service had more than 5 million contacts with individuals across the Commonwealth. I did want to touch briefly about the Kentucky Performance Funding Model as we talk about state appropriations. The model has been in place since 2017, and the model includes 11 metrics that are primarily focused on student success. UK has done very well with the performance funding model, primarily because our strategic plan on how to advance Kentucky is in complete alignment with the performance funding model. One of our primary principles is putting students first, so the things that we are focused on are what the model is measuring. For fiscal year 22-23, the year that we're in, UK was the only university to exceed the growth of the system average on each of the 11 metrics. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to talk about capital projects.
Glad to be here this morning. I'm Kevin Locke. I'm the Associate Vice President for Planning, Design, and Construction. What I'm going to do today is give you a brief overview of some of the things that we're seeing in the construction market, and then we'll go into a few specific examples and see how those overall trends have been affecting some of those specific projects. So there's three big things that we're seeing. Procurement lead times has been alluded to previously, but that is something that still plagues us. There was a number of unprecedented order numbers that we saw in 2022 that are still causing manufacturers are still catching up this year. That does actually affect the construction times that we're seeing for some of our major projects are affected greatly by that. And as you all know, the greater the construction period of time, you're probably looking at additional cost for the overall cost of the project. In the Great Recession, 2008, we probably lost somewhere over half of our skilled trade force during that time period. Less than half of that has returned to the state over the last 10, 15 years or so. So we still are witnessing a skilled trade shortage. When there is a skilled trade shortage, obviously that impacts the jobs that general contractors, construction managers will bid, and they can be a little bit more selective in what they're doing because they have to be. The workforce is not out there. So that does also decrease competition on some of the jobs that we're seeing bidding, and that decrease in competition increases the cost typically. We are still looking at inflation escalation. It has tapered off a little bit. Whether we go into a recession or whether we don't go into recession, you can take sides on that and what's going to happen, and it's kind of up in the air right now. But we still are seeing anywhere from 0.5% per month to 0.75% per month in escalation. You're seeing right now, everybody's glad that the gasoline prices are down. That's great, but diesel prices are not down. They're up 39% year over year from last year. The diesel gas prices are what affect the construction environment dramatically. So we are still seeing that. We're trying to mitigate some of these things, and I'll talk about some of the specific examples of that later, but one of the things that we're implementing right now is we're putting in volatility or market volatility contingencies when we plan our projects. And we're also asking our design teams that they go ahead and design to 90% of the budget. So if we have a $100 million construction budget, we ask them to design to 90. That other 10% we will typically put in a additive alternate. So that's where the design team will take that portion of the work And that will be something that can or cannot be chosen on bid day, depending on how the bids come in. So there's a few things that we can do to mitigate where we are right now. So one of the things that we're very proud of is our health education building, and we're super excited about the support that we received for Frankfurt for that. And that is basically funded $380 million, of which $250 million of that is for state bond funds. This is a tremendous project for us, and we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. So this is the current rendering. We are finishing up schematic design at this point in time. We had a $30 million design award go out that was approved by our Board of Trustees back in May of 2021. And the design is scheduled to be complete April of next year and construction ending April of 2026. This building is important because this is a collaboration between the College of Medicine, College of Nursing, College of Health Sciences, and Public Health. Getting these four colleges together in a symbiotic relationship is truly something that I think is going to benefit the Commonwealth greatly in future years. Back in August of 22.
Just a question, quick question.
Yes.
Make sure I'm on, is this the Markey Cancer Center that you're referring to? Or
No, this is the Health Education Building, College of Medicine building. We're proud of the Cancer Ambulatory building as well, yes. So back in August of 22, the cost estimate for this particular project indicated a 9.5% increase over the initial estimate. So some of the things that we've been doing in order to mitigate that, we cut approximately 42,000 gross square feet out of the building in order to get the project back into budget. When we did this cut, however, we focused on the office spaces as opposed to cutting anything related to simulation labs, classrooms, and things like that. So we're trying to do a targeted cut of this building to get it back into budget. And if we go over budget in additional, we may have to look at some other opportunities, maybe to shell some floors that could be done at a later date. I want to talk briefly about asset preservation. There's some tenets that we have here. Obviously, we're trying to extend the life of some of our existing buildings, a lot of our historic buildings on campus. So spending the money on that is very important. And when we do those modernizations, renovations of those buildings, we want to make sure that we're creating places for collaboration to occur between not only students, but students, staff, professors, all of that happening. So it's a new pedagogy that we're trying to build into these existing older buildings on campus. Obviously, we have been beneficiaries of basically $100 million per year for asset preservation funds, and I'll show you how we're planning on spending that on the next slide here. Some of the projects that we have slated for 22-23, we have a multidisciplinary science building, $15 million allocated for that. A project that I'm very excited about is the improvement of the Whitehall classroom building. The vast majority of our undergraduate students spend time in Whitehall classroom building. It has not been the most pleasant experience for a lot of them. And so we're making a lot of strides in bringing that up to current teaching standards and replacing building systems and infrastructure. We are doing a major renovation of Pence Hall, and then we have some minor projects with Patterson, Miller, Peterson, and we're spending a lot of time and effort and money on our existing campus infrastructure, so building systems, underground utilities, and things like that. Our MDS building, that is the fifth floor is a shared space between the colleges of health science and nursing. So again, that collaboration that we're seeing, that we're trying to foster there, that project is scheduled to be completed in June of 2023 from a design standpoint, and then in the summer of 2024. That project was originally a $10 million project. That budget has been increased to $15 million, in large part due to some existing air handling units that needed to be replaced and some elevator systems that were not up to code compliance, but also some of the escalation that I talked about earlier affecting that project. the favorite in my regard is the Whitehall Classroom Building. This project is 119,000 gross square feet. It is in the core of campus, 1960. Not a lot of renovation has occurred in this building over the years. So we're going to be scheduling to finish design in January of 2024 and then construction complete in the summer of 2026. We initially set a project of a budget of $670 a square foot on this project. That seems high. It is high. That is 34% over what we would typically do for a project of this size from a major renovation standpoint. So like it says here, $500 a square foot is what our typical base was before COVID. And we are increasing that to hopefully take care of some of the escalation that we're seeing out there. Pence Hall, 1907 building. This is even a more successful project in some ways in that it's one of our more historic buildings on campus. It has not been renovated in a major fashion in quite some time. We are in design right now, completing that in July of 23, with construction planning on being complete in the summer of 2025. From a budgetary standpoint, this project, we have $32 million, which equates to $760 a square foot for a renovation. This project had even more requirements from an infrastructure standpoint. There are still window units in the building, and we're tying this building into our steam condensate chill water system, as well as our complete electrical system redo of this building. And then we have a very important part of this asset preservation component is our infrastructure systems. We have several projects that have been initiated that deal with sanitary sewer systems, steam and condensate lines. Some of the buildings that we have that I alluded to earlier that still have window units, we're replacing some of the HVAC systems. So we're trying to extend the useful life of some of our more historic buildings on campus. So we have set aside that $25 million per year for asset preservation for that infrastructure and building systems improvement. We have seen some increases in cost. There's the theme again of what we're witnessing, and that has caused us to take some projects that we had initially planned on doing below the line and looking at doing those at a later date when the funds are available. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again for another great presentation. Appreciate your time. Tell President Capilouto we miss him. We understand we need to clone him probably so we can see him several different places. But I do appreciate you being here today. And we want to talk about that asset preservation. It sounds like it's pretty typical so far when I'm here from University of Louisville and UK that you've just made adjustments with what you have due to inflation. And certainly we'll hopefully look at next year's budget to see how we can offset some of that cost if we can. Correct me if I'm wrong. So is that the other thing I mentioned the marquee. I got way off on you there. Sorry about that. Is it still on track? The marquee. There was some money given last year. Marquee Cancer Center, is it on track?
Yes, the project is still moving forward, and we are right now in the middle of the schematic design phase. We are in a regular meeting cycle with that, going through the design and all of the different things. We're looking at putting in additional floors because of the growth for ambulatory and cancer services center in the Commonwealth. So we are looking at making some adjustments to the square footage in an upward direction. To take care of some of those increases that we're seeing in need.
But no major barriers at this point, other than funding?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Also, with I think funding was provided for healthcare worker loan relief.
Yes.
How is that? Can you talk a little bit about that? Or?
That program is going forward. We've received $2 million for the program, and I will likely have to get you more information on that. I do know that I believe some of the students are in the process now.
Okay.
For doing that.
Well, thank you. And if you don't mind, at some point, just kind of share an update on that, how it's going.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And you may or may not be able to speak on this, but if you can, the General Assembly provided some money for the cannabis study, House Bill 604. Has that already been obligated, or do you know where that's at? And you may or may not be able to speak on that or not.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, General Assembly did provide funding for the cannabis research at the University of Kentucky. Work in that area has begun. I think we've got the boards constituted. I know Dr. Babylonis and Dr. Walsh is doing some studies in that space. I don't know if we have any results yet. As you know, research studies takes a bit of time, take a bit of time to get through the process, but they are moving forward and doing research.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I don't see any Representative Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you all. Thank you for the updates. With the high cost of materials, goods, I mean, are you all capable, or was there any thought of delaying some of these? I mean, like Pence Hall's been there since 1906. You know, would it make sense to maybe wait till inflation cools a little bit when you're talking about 30 to 35% increases? Is that even an opportunity, or is the opportunity of not moving forward, the opportunity cost involved in that, is it too great that it outweighs that increase in cost?
Well, it depends, and from, I guess, the construction perspective, and when we're planning these projects, we don't know if it's going to get worse or if it's going to get better. So we assume we kind of be glasses half empty when we plan these projects. So we assume that the escalation is going to be there from a long-term standpoint. But even though we are seeing some leveling off right now, I mean, when you look at Central Kentucky, Western Kentucky, there is a hot market right now from just the amount of construction that is going on in the Commonwealth right now is very hot, especially when compared to the rest of the nation. So we are in a hot market right now from a construction standpoint. I do not foresee that ending in the next 4 or 5 years, just based on the experience that we have. So when we think about, is the time right to push a project forward now versus is it going to be more beneficial from us from a financial standpoint to postpone it a year or two? In a lot of cases, it depends on the need, but in some of these buildings that, like Pence and Whitehall, there's a tremendous need that pushes the needle towards let's get it done now, so that we can, continue on and use this money the way it was intended to be used.
Very good. That answered my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the way I understand it, it's kind of like timing the market on, investments.
It's like a hedge fund.
It's
Yes.
hard to do.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is just to continue those investments month after month, year after year, move forward. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Alden. Again, I want to say thank you for your presentation today. Thank you, all of you all, for attending today. Certainly always glad to see you and appreciate your time and effort. I also want to end by thanking our staff here because they're fantastic, trust me, and appreciate them. So we are